With us is Opeyemi, is sharing tips to us on how to ace our TOEFL exam. So, Opeyemi, over to you. We've had a session earlier on
Yeah, so I will just be continuing from where I
the
stopped.
GRE, and it was mind blowing. You can only imagine what you have for us this time around. So,
Okay, so
how is it over there?
I'm doing very fine and everything is going well. And as you have invited me to share one or two things, so I'll just go straight to the point right now. Test of English as a foreign language is an exam organized by ETS, and it's one of the exams. You go to ETS website, you see so many exams there. There are exams for professionals in financial sector, exams for professionals in managerial sector, and the rest of them. So, Test of English as a foreign language is one of the exams required for students to show their English capacity in many other countries. So, for example, it's required. It can be used in the USA, it can be used in the UK, it can be used in so many European countries. So, to prove that yes, you're an English speaker. So, for test of English as a foreign language, so there's always an alternative to it, which is IELTS. So, IELTS is the one done in the United Kingdom and also accepted in many other European countries, as well as it's accepted in Canada as well. So, I think it's more recognized in Canada than TOEFL. So I think IELTS is more recognized in Canada than TOEFL. So anybody that wants to apply to schools in Canada, so it's always advisable to go for IELTS first, because IELTS is used for residency permit and the rest of them in Canada. So I guess that's on lighter notes. So for test of English as a foreign language, so it's an exam that's very straightforward. It's just like you going back to doing WAEC exam. So I will just share my screen here. So I have just very few to share. So a minute. So WAEC does not test your English. English. So WAEC is they test your writing, and test your reading, your speaking, as well as it. So the exams are divided into two sections. The first two sections are for active. Give me a minute. I don't know why my phone hanging. Okay, so I'll be talking on with this slide. So as I was saying, so the test divided into two sections. So one is the active section, the other is the passive section. So the passive section is sections whereby you have to get involved by just doing activities without getting somebody else involved at the other end. While active section, somebody will have to evaluate what you have done. So for example, active section is writing and speaking. So when you are writing and you are speaking, you are actively showing your English proficiency. Or passive section is when you are listening and when you are reading. So they are passive sections. So like I said in the GRE section, for whoever have checked that out. So for the TOEFL section, you have to understand what scores are required in your school or your department for you to take this test. So if your department is requiring to score very high, then you have to prepare so much for the exam. But the department is requiring low, you have to prepare as well for the exam, but not so laborious, like someone that's preparing to score, as high as possible. One thing is important. Some countries and some schools grade the scores differently. For example, TOEFL is scored over 30 for each section, for the writing, the speaking, the reading, and the listening. So it's graded 30, 30, 30. So that is 120 total. For some countries, they will require that your spoken English is very high. So some of them will expect that you score as much as 25 in your spoken English, but they might not bother so much about your reading English, your listening ability, and the rest of them. So you have to understand what is required by your school, the college, as well as the country, if it's the country that's requiring it. For example, in the past, I remember trying to apply to Cambridge University, and on Cambridge website, they put it there for each of the sections, they require that I scored 25 on each of the section. I think in this year, I used something about Cambridge. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I would have shown that it's in the GRE slide. So I don't know, is there echo?
No, you can go on.
Okay. So on the like as I was saying, I was giving an insight. So on the Cambridge website, they put it there: listening, speaking, writing, and reading. Each of them 25. So if you sum them up together, that's 100. That's 100. So that score is not the same as when somebody scores 26, 24, 25, 25. That will still give you 100. But provided you didn't meet up with each of those cutoff, you're already disqualified. So that is one thing about the test of English exam. So you must know if each of your sections are saying you have to score 20 in each of them, you have to score 20. Even if you score 119 and one of the sections you scored below that score, the score becomes useless, except if you try and see if they can waiver it. So it's very important to take note of this. So it won't be like, because some people always joke with this exam, how that, for example, somebody can prepare for someone can prepare for writing and speaking, because the person feels like reading is a normative. It's not the read comprehension. It's not to just read. Yeah, so it's not the read comprehension. I've been doing comprehensions when I was in secondary school and the rest of them. So some people will not take that preparation serious. But in the school you're applying to, they might have put it there that you have to score maybe 25 in reading. So if you don't put in much energy to score that score in that reading, and in the results you score 24, it becomes useless. I'm sincere with you. So that's the dangerous thing about test of English, how that each of the sections are very, very useful to your school. So you have to understand how much preparation you need for them. Some section might not be so much required by your school, so you don't have to put so much effort in those areas. So that's that on it. So like I said in this slide here, I said not completely. It is not a complicated exam provided you did WAEC. So they're just expecting you that did WAEC. You're an English speaking personnel. So they're expecting you to show that yes, you can speak English. Prove to us that you can speak English. So so they will just give you those exams to test how fluent you are with your English language. Then so the one thing about the exam is this. For the exam, you just have to understand how the examination pattern is. Okay, for example, in the normal exam, the first section you will see is reading. Then after reading, they'll come up with listening. Then after listening, they'll come up with speaking. Then after speaking, they'll come up with writing. So it means that usually in the exam, the first section you see is the passive section, which is reading and listening. So you're not really doing much other than answering questions and picking answers. And in the second section, which is the active section, which is speaking and writing. So those are the active sections. So they divide it into those areas. So the reason why it's important to understand this exam pattern is so that when you're preparing, you can know in your mind, you can know that, oh, this is what I'll be doing next after this. This is what I'll be doing next. So it will help you to prepare properly. So also you'll be able to expect how many questions, because these exams are standardized. When we say standardized tests, it means whatever you are doing here in Nigeria, you are doing the same pattern of the exam somewhere else in South Africa. Although your questions might not be the same. It's not even possible for your questions to be the same, but the same pattern. So if they're asking 10 questions in Nigeria, it's very likely it's the same 10 questions that they're asking in South Africa, but your questions might be different. So it means if you know that it's always going to be 10 questions, that means you have prepared your mind that, okay, well, after first 10 questions, I'll be going straight into the next section. So you have to understand the exam pattern. And like I said, so before then, you personally as an English speaker, you should know which area are you proficient with. Are you proficient at speaking? Are you proficient at writing? Are you proficient at listening and listening? So from there, you're able to evaluate, oh, what do I need to start preparing on for this exam? Like I said, the exam is not a very difficult one. So you can take you maybe 2 weeks to just prepare for this exam. But if you're somebody that probably you are not fluent in many of these areas, in writing, and so you have to take much more time, maybe like a month to prepare for the exam. And that will take us to the last point, which is a common guide for this, can be found at this website, edx.org. So the reason why I have to put this one here, there are so many materials you see online, but this particular one, the reason I put this here is because this appears to be one of the most efficient materials that will push you through the exam. It will make you understand the kind of exam you are doing and how to beat the exam. So, so personally, it is expected that personally you should have some level of vocabularies, stated that you should have some level of understanding in writing essays and the rest of them. But going through with this guide, this is the recommended one of the recommended guides on the ETS website. Other recommended materials on ETS website are paid for, but this is a free one. It's like a course. So I think it's about 4 weeks course. But since we are Nigerians now, we know how to finish a week course in a day. So it's not always very difficult. So 1 week might just be 4 hours. So if you have the 4 hours to devote in a day, you can devote it and you finish that week. I think it's about 4 to 6 weeks. If you're able to do that exam very well and prepare personally, you'll find out that you're going to stand out in this exam. So that's what I have to share on the test of English as a foreign language with everybody. So I welcome questions now.
Okay, so you can leave your screen sharing, okay? I'll just go on with the question. Okay, that's not a problem. So my first question is, you said something about to join a study group. How,
Okay.
let's say for instance now, I've decided that I want to sit for my GRE or TOEFL, whatever it is, this year. How can I find a study group?
You can create one
How
yourself.
can I find a study group? I can create one. How would I get other people that are writing the same exam?
So that's just the question. So the question is, you have to try and locate people that are interested in these exams. For example, you have to visit scholarship websites. For example, people that are interested in ISI scholarship now, definitely. If ISI scholarship shared, they shared their application link on LinkedIn, for example, you would have seen people liking it or people commenting. And you can comment there that, oh, I'll be preparing for these exams as well. I don't know, anybody interested? Would you like to join a study group with me? Then from there, you will know that, okay, then from there you can start picking out people that are interested in joining a study group. That's one way to find a study group. That's the most common way to join a study group. Another way again is you that are pursuing graduate studies. You also have some of your friends too that are also pursuing graduate studies. So if you, I've been, so definitely, since I'm pursuing graduate study, I will definitely have some of my friends as well that are also interested. So we can just create a group together, I would just, contact one of them and say, oh, what about creating a study group together? So we can probably in the night, after the day's job, because not everybody that will have time to study for these exams, but study groups can also help you study. So after the day's job, probably at 9 p.m. in the night, let's just, discuss about quantitative reasoning. Or I studied, I tried to solve a question today. The question was very, very difficult, but I found a shortcut. So that shortcut can be useful to your friends. So if you create a study group like now, you can now share that idea with them that, okay, well, when I was studying this material, I found a shortcut to answer this question, which used to be longer than this. So in that study group, every other person there can benefit from it. So for you to get a study group, you just have to find out who is also interested in scholarship opportunities as you are. Then you can start preparing for it together. So that's it about study groups.
Yeah. Thank you very much for answering that question. My second question is about the GRE and TOEFL stuff. So I had this friend, was applying to graduate studies, then now he's already there. And so it was like when he was writing his TOEFL, he had like a lot of psychological issues and all that. So he could not pay attention properly, but he knew he was not going to do well, but he had hope. And the hope was that in his GRE, his score there was very high, especially for his verbal the part of the test. So the way he was saying it, it was almost as if, if you have a GRE, it could also serve the same purpose as a TOEFL, because it's the same test of English that is being done in the verbal testing bar. So
the thing about okay, you want to ask a question? I guess when you ask a question.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking, can one serve for the other? If not, since there is already a GRE that has the same verbal testing, what's not the point for the TOEFL? It's not unnecessary duplication of testing if you can speak English.
Okay. The thing is about, it's a very nice question. The thing about the exams is this: it's dependent on the department. That's number one. If your department does not require both of them, you can submit one. But if your department requires TOEFL specifically, you can't use GRE for TOEFL. Why? GRE's verbal test is critical reasoning, not English proficiency test. Critical reasoning is different from English proficiency test. Critical reasoning is like, journals, if you are used to publication, it's not like you're reading somebody doing research and they're not telling you about, this research. The interesting thing about GRE is that the comprehension might not even be an area of your own study. I'm somebody in engineering now. GRE can go to archaeology to bring in one research paper from there and ask me critical questions from that, from that particular essay. They will ask me critical question in comprehension. So it's a very GRE exam is a very critical thinking exam. So it can serve for TOEFL in that. Number one, they're already testing in GRE, they're already testing your reading for that verbal section. They're only testing your reading. They're not, and in the hour part, which is the analytical writing, they can now test your writing. But this writing as well, like I said, it is technical writing, not just essay writing. It's very technical writing. So we ask you critical thinking question. You have to solve logical problems with what you are writing. So in GRE, they might test your writing and your reading. But in TOEFL, your spoken English is very important, and your listening, which is useful to you in graduate school. As a graduate assistant, when you get to graduate school, you might be taking classes. You might be teaching, white students, black students, Asian students, by taking them classes. And in that process, what is required of you is, are you able to listen and are you able to speak? So the GRE is not testing your spoken English and your listening English. So TOEFL tests that. So that's why both of them can serve each other. They can serve in place of each other. And like I said, GRE is much more technical. It's a very technical exam. Taking the verbal section in GRE, the normal reading section is more difficult than the reading section in TOEFL. In TOEFL, you can breeze it off. You can do a week preparation, 2 weeks preparation, you breeze it off. But GRE reading section, which is the verbal section, you can't just breeze it off. You have to prepare very, very well. 4 weeks, 6 weeks to beat the GRE reading section. So even if you beat it very well, it can't still serve the purpose of the test of English as a foreign language.
Okay, so there's another question, because remember at the beginning of the session I said we're going to move around before the exam, during the exam, and after the exam. Now, during the exam, there again, I have to, because I've had lots of friends that have sat for this exam. One of them told me that he was trying to, that his first experience in writing TOEFL, he was just during the speaking session, he was trying to be American in nature, this normal that grew up in Ojuelegba. And then he was trying to form American accent, and he said he performed so badly. So
definitely.
I met his mentor.
The thing about the exam is that spoken section is going to be, somebody's going to listen to it. And one of the things they will grade is how real you are. Like, are you real or are you trying to form it? So, like I said this exam board, they employ the best PhD psychological people that have PhD in psychology, scientists, people that understand how human reasoning. So it is they that they will listen to it. So they will be able to, identify whether you're trying to form it or not. So in this exam, the best way to beat the exam, you just have to be free. Don't speak your English the way you used to speak, but just ensure that you don't make mistakes. Let me put it that way. But speak your English the way you used to speak. But if you try to form it, you are going to fail, because they will know that you are becoming fake. So, and the exam is not for someone that wants to show fake spoken English.
Okay. So my next question is about when you said something about a paper test and an internet-based test. Is that like the difference? So you can write one paper, like the paper test, and then there's another one that is for internet.
Okay. So yes, the ETS, they have different forms of test of English as a foreign language. I think they're about, if I'm not mistaken, they're about 5 or so. So they have the TOEFL Essential, they have the TOEFL Home Edition, they have the Test of English as the internet-based edition. They also have the paper-based edition. So in the past, before this internet-based edition came into play, they used to do it was basically paper-based. You have to go to the center. For those that have done SAT in the past, people that wanted to go and do that want to study abroad in the past, in the probably 2010s, 2011 era, definitely their SAT during that period would have been physical. They would have gone to an exam center and sat down, collect paper, the way we are doing JAM back then. So that's the way it used to be. So back then JAM, you have to go and shade physically. You sit down 3 hours, and so that's the way the exam used to be. But when this corona came in, corona now made it difficult to use corona made it difficult for them to do paper exams. So because of so many people that are doing the exam in different countries all over the globe, they had to strategize and bring in the internet-based exams. The internet-based exam was there right from time, but it was not as loud as the paper-based test. So they had to bring the internet-based test. So both exams are serving the same purpose. So they're serving the same purpose. But the thing about the exams is that although some people have speculated that the paper test is much more difficult than the internet-based test, but according to ETS, they are the ones setting the exam, and they feel like both of them are equally difficult. So whichever one the person applies to do, there's no problem with that. But the thing about the internet-based test again is that the home edition is also there, the one you can do at home. But one very key thing is important is this, is that before you take any of these tests, you have to, when you visit your school website or your department's website, look at what they are asking you to do. Many schools don't accept the home edition because they feel like probably you are not under supervision. So there's no examiner around to evaluate whether you are the one doing the exam or not. So many schools don't accept home edition. Many schools still accept paper-based tests, but paper-based test is not common in Africa as before. But it might be common in the United States because since that's where the I guess that's where the headquarters of ETS is. But the internet-based test is the test you go to a particular center to do, but you're using your computer to do it. So that's the most recommended by most schools. So you have to check your school first. Nobody should go and do home-based exam without confirming from the school. If you do home-based exam without confirming, it's going to be useless because many schools don't accept it. They feel like it's not under, there's no examiner around to evaluate whether you are cheating or not. So that's it about those exams.
Wow, this is like a very huge revelation from you today. Thank you, Opeyemi. So, from our viewers listening to this, you can hear it too. Please, before you do your home based, go and inquire from your department first. Okay, I believe my next question is: do you get your results right there once you are done submitting, or like days or weeks later?
Okay. For the I was unable to say I guess I was unable to answer questions in the GRE section. For the GRE examination, your score would review after the examination, but not everything. Your quantitative reasoning score, which has been evaluated by the computer, as well as your verbal reasoning score, which has also been evaluated by the computer, since as a result of being multiple choice questions, probably filling gap and the rest of them. So those ones, the results will come out immediately you submit. So the results will come out immediately you submit. But the analytical writing section, it might take close to 2 weeks for you to get that feedback. So when the result is displayed on the computer, it is your responsibility to write it down. Because immediately you leave the exam, or you won't have access to your results until when the analytical writing results comes out. So if that one come out, that is where they will now send everything together again. That's when you now have access to your score again. But at the exam, once you are done, you will see your score for verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning. For test of English, the passive section, which is reading comprehension and listening, both scores will display immediately after you're done with the exam. So once you submit, you will see the score displayed. So the spoken section, as well as the writing section, that will also take about 2 weeks before you get them. So the moment you leave the exam, you won't see your scores again till when those results are finally out. So when the results are finally out, you now have access to all your scores again. But immediately after the exam, you see the results for the ones that are available at that time.
Wow. Thank you again for answering that question. My next question is there like a follow-up? Like a follow-up after the exam? Are there things that you are required to do after the exam, or once you're done with the exam, that is it? All you need is for you to just wait for your result to come out.
For the exam, there's nothing to do after that exam. You go inside there and you do what you can do and you get out. The only thing you are left to do is keep waiting and hoping for the best. That's what I'm going to say. But before you apply for the exam, it's worthy to note this: how that before you apply for the exam, you'll be given avenues to pick schools that you want to send your results to. So for GRE now, you'll be given the opportunity to pick 4 schools as well as TOEFL. So you'll be picking the opportunity, you're given the opportunity to pick 4 schools that you can send your results to. GRE is while you are doing your registration that you would have chosen the schools you want to send it to, 4 schools. So definitely those schools that you've checked their requirements and you found out that okay, this one is GRE, this one is GRE, you would have seen the code for GRE on their website or for the department on their website. Then you will use it in doing your application. So you put those code there. So at the end of your exam, when your results are ready, the GRE examination board will send your results directly to those schools by themselves, to those 4 schools. Aside those 4 schools, if you want to send your result to any other school, you have to pay for sending. So I think that's around $30. So that was one of the reasons why I didn't submit GRE and TOEFL for University of Michigan, because I've submitted my GRE and TOEFL for some other schools. So I didn't want to use my money at that point, for paying for examination submission. So I just decided not to submit it. So for TOEFL, you can always change the schools you want to send your result to. I think the day before your exam. So you always have access to change it inside the portal. The day before you always have access to change it. So probably you have put a school before and you now felt like, I've confirmed from the graduate coordinator that I don't really need the results for my admission. Then you can go and remove that school and put another school again that you think will require it. Or it's always advisable to confirm from your department whether they require it or not. So you'll not just waste that opportunity. So the only thing you can do after those exams is you can only check your school portal. So for example, let's say I was applying to Purdue and I already imputed Purdue in my examination in the GRE application. I already imputed Purdue in the GRE application. So the moment my results are ready, even if I'm not aware, but the moment I'm checking my portal regularly to see whether, because there's a place on your portal that is going to update whether your result has entered or not. So I'll be able to see there that, oh, my result has entered. So it will tell you your score and the rest of them on the portal. But definitely, when your results are ready, ETS will send you your results. They will send you a notification via email, and you will know that your results are ready. So the only thing you need to do is just to check your school portal and confirm whether the result is displayed. If it does not display, you can always reach out to them and make a complaint that you imputed this school and it didn't probably appear in the school portal and the rest of them. So that's just it.
Wow. So there are 2 things now from everything you've said. First is that after paying to write the exam, you still have to pay for them to send your result to the school.
Yes. No, first of all, you have 4 free schools to send the result to.
Okay.
Not after the exam. It's going to be when you are doing your application. You must input those schools when you are doing your application. If you do your application without inputting those schools, that opportunity is gone. So that they are not joking with their money here. So that opportunity. so you have to input those schools before submitting your application.
Okay, so I believe that statement should have a follow-up question, which is, so let's say you decide to apply to 4 schools this year, and then you've already imputed the 4 schools when you were applying for your TOEFL. Then you didn't get into any of those 4 schools, and next time you want to begin another application cycle. So now you have to pay the money, right?
Yes, you have to use $30 to send it to each of those schools.
Okay, so on that note, what is the lifespan of a TOEFL certification?
Oh, that's very important. A TOEFL is 2 years. Most English tests are 2 years lifespan. So from the date you submitted your application, not the day your result came out, though, is the day you submitted your application that you start reading. So first year, second year, it has expired. But for GRE is 5 years. So you can use GRE as long as 5 years.
So at this point in time, this is the moment where we'll give thumbs up to Dr. Olufumolayo. I'm not sure if I pronounce his name properly. The Nigerian man that has been writing to different universities to waive English tests for Nigerians, because honestly, it's frustrating.
It's really frustrating, when you know you can speak English and you have to prove it.
You still have to prove that you can speak that same English.
yeah. So it's really frustrating. So that's why it's always advisable that before you do any of this exam, even if it's required on the website, send them a mail to confirm. Tell them So and so from I'm Mr. Kini Okpeyemi from an English-speaking country. I had my bachelor's and I was taught in English all through my bachelor's. And aside that as well, the economic conditions of Nigeria is not making it possible for me to afford the money for English tests. So is it possible that the requirements can be waived for me? And you get their feedback. If you are going to waive it, they will let you know. Some department used to waive it, even if it's on their website. They'll let you know, provided you have given them those facts, they'll waive it for you. And the ones that don't waive it, person you know that okay, if it's a school that you really want to go to, then you have to probably do the exam.
Okay. So I think this would be my final question. The GMAT, it's different from GRE, right?
Yeah, it's very different.
And so, it's usually for those that are not in STEM, like not in science-related courses.
The GMAT is basically for people in my what did they call it? Is it social sciences? Yeah, social sciences, I guess. So economics, political science, accountancy, finance. So people in that area. So the GMAT is in the full meaning of GMAT. I think management is stated there or something. I think the M there means management. So it's a management-based exam. So people that want to go into economics, MBA, you want to do masters in business administration or PhD in the area of accounting, economics, political science, philosophy, many of them, they can take in GMAT. But like I said, some schools, even if it's economics, some schools will tell you that what they are collecting is GRE. So just know what your school wants and use it.
Okay. So thank you very much for paying me.
You're welcome.
Just as an aside, this is me now going personally. So what was your requirement in choosing your schools? Michigan. What made you choose Michigan?
What made me choose Michigan? Michigan is a top school actually. And aside that, the fact that like we spoke about earlier on, it's the fact that they fund a lot of PhD programs. So Michigan is a school that they love PhD research a lot, and they fund research so much. So that's one of the reasons. When I saw it on their website that they are willing to fund PhD students with direct bachelors, then it became one of my schools. And aside that, I got to see some of the research they are doing in the department I'm joining, which is mechanical engineering. So I found the research to be interesting. So I decided to put in my very best and see if I can get in. So, and that was it.
So what is your advice to those that after probably had their application, let's say last year or some years ago, and they are yet to get into any school? What's the advice for them? Because we get a complaint of, applying for scholarship, graduate studies, it's only for the elites, for the intelligent students. So it's very difficult. They don't want to apply and all that. What is the advice to people like this?
The thing is, one thing I used to say is this, that anything you want to find yourself doing, be so good that they can't ignore you. That is very important. Your application, make your application so good that they can't ignore you. Why am I saying this? For example, you see so many people trying to do application for some schools, and you don't submit a trivial application, you don't submit a normal application, and you expect that the school will just decide to pick you. It's not done so. You have to, you around you, when you see your application, you have to be proud about it. And that's on a lighter note. So it's not always about, the best students. No. Your application profile is observed holistically. They will check your grades. They will check your if GRE is required, they might check your GRE. If they will check your recommendation letters. They will check your if you are going for research, they will check your research experience. So, and lastly, very, very important, they will check your skill set. Very, very important. It's one top-notch thing that will get you what you want is, do you have the skill to join that school, to join that department? So they will check all this. So it's an holistic admission process. So they will check everything together. So, and lastly, your motivational letter. Well, before motivational letter, your skill set is very important. So if you're applying in the past and you're applying for chemical engineering, and in your CV, you are just putting, they ask you for skill, you're putting problem solving, you're putting technical writing, you're putting Microsoft Word, that's not going to sell you out. What will sell you out is a skill in chemical engineering area. Oh, probably filtration techniques for so and so. Probably I'm not in chemical engineering for crying out loud, so I might not know what their technical skills might be. But for example, in mechanical now, mechanical we do CAD a lot. So in my own application, I'll put it there, computer aided design using which application? Probably AutoCAD, probably ANSYS. I'll also put again numerical analysis using MATLAB, using IPIN, using Autodesk Inventor. So those are very technical skills that will sell you out, not problem solving that people used to put on their CV. Another thing again is that you have been submitting an application before, ensure this time around you are doing a very serious review. I just mentioned this on one group today, how that people are submitting an application without even reviewing their documents. Someone has submitted an application, you're not bringing your document for review. After you have submitted, then we are not seeing things that won't sell you out. It's definitely, you can't be competitive that way. So if I thought you're going to be doing applications, ensure you do multiple reviews of your documents. Your CV very important. The motivational letter very important. In your CV, your skill set must stand out. Your skill set must stand out. Be so good that they can't ignore your application. That's very important. If you want to beat people from Asia, people from India, people from China, you have to stand out. It's not about grades this time around. There are many of my friends out there that with their 2-1, and some people with 2-2 that even got their PhD in some countries. So they're out there. So what matters is, are you able to do it? Can you prove that you can do it with probably publications and research experience, and as well as your skill set? Then you're going to get what you want. So that's just it basically for me.
So thank you very much, Opeyemi. This is one of the longest sessions I've had. Thank you.
There's no problem.
Okay. So for our viewers out there, this is Flourish Opportunities Network, and yes, we are speaking with Opeyemi Akini, who is an incoming PhD student at the University of Michigan. You've heard from him about the GRE and TOEFL. So go out there and do your best. If you can, sit for the exam. If you can't, then write to the departmentals and know what they will say. Till then, good luck in your applications. Do have a great day, everyone. Opeyemi, thanks for coming again. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks so
Enjoy
much.
your